Alrighty, our guest today on What Makes Us Human is Mike Gorman. Mike Gorman is the creator of Cold Plunge Podcast, plungereviews.com, Cold Plunge Memes. Mike, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
In New Jersey here, not too far away from where you live.
So originally from Long Island,
Mhm.
moved to New Jersey. So now I'm down by the Jersey Shore. I've been there for like 4 or 5 years. Love it. Good natural cold plunging waters.
Natural cold
for
plunging
me.
waters.
Yeah.
You getting in Atlantic Ocean? That sounds like it's your gig.
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, it's just, but I will say that doing it in an ice bath is so much easier. It's just on, you just wake up, go right into the ice bath. The Atlantic Ocean is just a whole nother beast, especially in winter. It's a little dangerous. You know, it's just, it's a kind of nice little walk, the sand, there's just so many elements. So you feel much more accomplished after an ocean plunge in the winter. But
Yeah, it seems like doing it outdoor is, with the weather elements and all that stuff is always a much different experience versus doing it inside in a cold plunge.
yeah, it's almost two different things. And I think it kind of is because you have two terms that are thrown around so much in our industry. You have ice bath and cold plunge, which I personally use them interchangeably, but they are two different things because a cold plunge is all encompassing. It involves ice bathing, it involves going into frozen lakes and oceans. But an ice bath, I think, should only be used when you are in a bath. So I don't believe if you cold plunge in the ocean, I don't think that's an ice bath. Maybe you could argue if you do it in a frozen lake, you could maybe say that's an ice bath. But still, I think cold plunging is outdoors in nature and ice baths. But an ice bath is just in a bath like what you sell. That's just me and my vernacular.
Well, we're looking forward to having you to Montana here pretty soon, where I live, and then we can do a cold plunge in nature there, and we'll go in a few different bodies of water up there.
Yes. And hopefully an ice bath. I'm still excited to try a vat
Yeah,
and plunge.
we'll take you to one there when it's finished as well. So
Yeah,
looking forward to that.
absolutely.
So you do a lot of things involving discomfort, not just cold plunges and ice baths, but sauna, weightlifting. Sounds like you're pretty disciplined with your diet as well, kind of going down like the animal-based thing. Like, what do you think set you up for doing these things, like say in your upbringing?
I mean, in my upbringing is tough. That's a tough angle on the question. But in general, I think that I like to feel good. I believe that in order to feel good, you could only feel as good as you could feel bad. So you have to do hard things in order to get that reward in order to feel good. You know, outside of like doing drugs or something. But just naturally, if you want to feel good, you can't have the highs without the lows. So, and I think cold plunging is a perfect metaphor for that, where you have to get really cold and it's going to suck, and then you're going to feel amazing. So, and then, you know, you extrapolate that to everything: diet, fasting, you know, sauna, which I don't even consider sauna hard. Like it's the best thing ever. Like I don't consider that like me doing a hard thing. I think that's me doing like the best thing ever that I just love every second of.
Sounds like you need to get like on both ends of the spectrum: discomfort, comfort. You know, it's almost like they complement each other.
Yeah, I mean, spend a day doing uncomfortable things and you're going to sleep like a baby. That'll be the most comforting sleep of your life. It's just, oh, so you get the reward. So I think that's what's so good about it. And you just learn through life. I mean, everything that's worthwhile comes from hardship. Nothing's easy. Life is hard. So do hard things and get good rewards.
Do hard things. Absolutely. It seems like that's, at least we're seeing more of a trend of people speaking about that these days. The Joe Rogans and Andrew Huberman, you know, and all these people out there that, you know, we've been into.
Yeah, and that's the cool thing about all these guys where, you know, they kind of put it on the table. They say, "Oh, you can do this." I mean, for most of my life, like I didn't know what a cold plunge was. I didn't know it was a thing, and they kind of talk about it, and you hear about it, and you're like, "Oh, I'll try it." And you could see for yourself if it works. You could see for yourself if doing this particular hard thing is going to make me feel good, and if it does, do it. If not, don't. Most people don't.
What do you think about the people who don't do cold plunges and they also want to tell you how it's not good for you or there's no benefit or whatever? What about those people?
I don't hate those people. I think they're good. I like to hear all sides of the argument. And in some capacities, I think that they have some good points. I mean, for example, I wouldn't advise a pregnant woman to cold plunge. I don't think I'd have my kids cold plunge if they want. Like, I think I hope my kids will do it for fun just because they wanna be like dad or whatever,
Mm,
but, like, I wouldn't be like, "Get in the cold plunge before you," unless you eat din you can only eat dinner if you get in the cold 3 minutes in the plunge for dinner, but so it's like, I don't think it's for everybody. And I like that there's people out there who are challenging it, and only from people challenging something can we find what the truth is. And I don't think that the science is settled on cold plunging. I think we're going to learn so much more about it, so hopefully more benefits, but there could be negatives involved too. I've heard them all.
and that's a great point you bring up the science about it. You know how a lot of people seem to get kind of caught up in the weeds about, oh well, the studies say this and the studies say that, like versus the subjective side of things. Like, how do you think those all kind of plug into there?
Well, I think that the most important thing that you could do is listen to your own body. So, especially when it comes to science, but I think you kind of have to use both and just see what works for you. I mean, and especially one thing that I've kind of come to terms with being in this alternative health space, biohacking space, is that so many of these studies are funded by people who are incentivized to make money from the result of the study. So just knowing that, it's like, all right, like the studies are, there's something, they're part of the equation, but they are far from the whole equation. There's so much more to all of these things. So I think that, try cold plunging a couple times a week. Do your own studies. It's so easy to strap on a Whoop monitor, measure your heart rate in the plunge. Wear an Aura ring at night. See how your sleeping benefits or doesn't from a cold plunge, and just make the determination for yourself. Does this work for me?
Mm-hmm.
And know that the studies support it. If it's good, there are studies that support your hypothesis. But ultimately, listen to yourself. Listen to your body.
Mm-hmm. It seems like just across the board, the listen to your body thing is like, why wouldn't we all do that? It
It's
seems so valuable.
It's crazy. And I think that there's so many forces out there, so many people that can make money on telling you not to trust your instincts, not to trust your body, just to buy their product because their product is the only thing that'll save you. Like skincare is such a great example where, everyone's like, "Oh, if you don't put this moisturizer on your skin, you're going to get wrinkles." But I don't think I think it's like, well, guess what? I'm 36 years old. I don't have wrinkles. I look great. I think I look great. I don't need your product. I'm going to go with my own thing because my whole life I've never worn skincare products. And now there's a whole industry telling people to wear skincare products. Like, I'm not doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
What about beef tallow? Do you smother your face in beef tallow?
yeah, I would. I would. I mean, I have like a tallow soap that I
Uh-huh.
use, but I don't wash my face. I put my face under water, but I just don't really believe in putting chemicals of any sort sense on your
Mm-hmm.
face.
Mm-hmm. That sounds great. And it seems too like diet, that's a big one too. That's like in what you're putting in your body internally reflects outward through your skin. So
Yeah, and
yeah.
your beauty, I think. So much of it, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I see uh a lot of people that maybe make poor diet choices. I think a lot of times it reflects in a lot of things. Like, for example, maybe some vegans might be having hair thinning issues, for example, weight gain. I mean, all kinds of things. So yeah, your diet is the most important thing, and it's internal, and that reflects externally.
Mm-hmm. What got you sort of going down that road? Because it sounds like, kind of animal based type, lots of meat, eggs, and all that stuff. Like, what got you seeing that that was the best path to follow?
Well, I mean, I've been addicted to bread my whole life. So, and turns out that was the source of my acne my whole life.
Uh huh.
But, and when you're eating bread and you're eating pizza like 5 times a week, you just feel slow and you feel lethargic. And I guess probably when I hit like my 30s, and I guess it's very easy to be in your 20s and teens, and you could eat anything, you could drink whatever you want, and you're gonna be fine. Like, you wake up the next morning, you feel amazing, but all of a sudden you hit 30, and there's a bit of a wall, and it's like all of a sudden, oh, I'm a little slow this morning, and it's like what I had last night, pizza and alcohol, and all of a sudden you're like, okay, like this isn't working for me. Like this diet, something needs to change, and I didn't really know what that was at the time. I did a month of I guess I was vegetarian for a month, and I did that. That was awful. I was like bloated. I felt terrible. So that was 1 month of September. And I didn't really do much other than like for the next year, I cut out bread, tried to, and that was good. And then all of a sudden, yeah, you hear Joe Rogan and Paul Saladino talk about this carnivore diet,
Mhm.
and it sounds so crazy at first. And and then you're just like, well, I give it a month. I was a vegan for a month. I could do carnivore for a month, and that was like the best month of my life. I couldn't even sleep at night. I was so energetic,
Uh-huh.
and I was like, okay, this is sick. Obviously, I couldn't live my whole life as a carnivore all the time. So now I sort of adopt like a meat-based approach. So
Mhm.
as some people are plant-based, I'm meat-based. So I eat like 80% meats and 20% like potatoes, and I'll throw in some vegetables in there. I don't think vegetables are the worst thing in the world.
Mhm.
But and then it's also cool because once you know that you have this carnivore tool in the back pocket, if I'm ever like feeling sick, I feel like an illness come on, I'll be like, all right, I'm doing meat for 1 week. And then all of a sudden my body just kicks into overdrive and it
Mhm.
just does everything. And it's like, whoa, it's a superpower being able to be carnivore. It's just an absolute superpower. If you know, you have to do it right, you know. So if you are gonna do it, like follow these guys like Paul Saladino. Don't just eat like chicken and bacon, you know, the whole time. I think just like Joe Rogan, you have to eat better quality meats. You have to
Mhm.
eat elk. You know, stay away from the peasant birds like chicken and turkey. You know, do eat animals that run, that sprint, that live wholesome lives, and you're gonna be very successful. But yeah, people do carnivore wrong a lot. So so yeah, I can't recommend more just following Paul Saladino and his work. Fruits too, great. Nothing wrong with fruits.
Mhm. All right, so Paul Saladino. Sounds like you've taken some good direction from him as far as the diet goes. Like, I don't even know what question to ask at this point, but
Yeah, but I would
uh,
say he's like my number one guy in the
mhm.
space. I think Huberman is a little too heavy for me on the science. Paul is definitely into the science, but I don't know, I resonate more with him and his content.
His content, yeah. Have you tried any of his the Heart and Soil
Yeah.
desiccated organ
Yeah,
supplements? Uh-huh.
yeah, well, yeah, well, that's his new company. I've tried the old ones. I forget what they're called. Um, it's not Heart and Soil. I've tried the other
Uh-huh.
ones.
Oh, was that Ancestral Supplements?
No,
That
it's
was
something
Liver
else.
Kings.
Yeah, no, I didn't. Which I think he was working with Liver King, which
Huh.
wasn't a great look.
Uh-huh.
I think but Paul's in like everything that has to do with carnivore. Paul's
Mhm.
like to me, Paul's like the carnivore to what I am cold plunging, or at least what I want to be in cold plunging. Like he's got his hands in everything. He's got like a carnivore cookbook. You know, I think he works with the Liver King for his products. Um, and maybe it is Heart and Soil, the ones
Mhm.
I've been using.
Yeah, they've been.
Yeah, but now he has Lineage Provisions.
Yeah, isn't something like
It's
that?
hard, yeah. So I think it is, but so yes, I've spent a lot of money on those capsules. I haven't felt anything
Uh-huh.
from. I don't know. I don't know if they work. I don't endorse them. I think you got to just do it the real way. Eat the real
Mhm.
food.
Mhm.
Uh,
So doing the real food then, have you what organs have you actually eaten?
uh, I mean, I get this ground beef package from a farm. So I do like a local farm share. So which is I haven't seen the farm, but I allegedly get food from a farm and I get this like ground beef package is with like kidney, heart, and liver. So it's like kidney, heart, and liver mixed with a ground beef. It tastes really, really good. And so yeah, I don't know. I don't really have much to say. I don't know if it's how much of kidney, heart, and liver is in there,
Mhm.
but those seem to work for me.
Mhm. So it seems too like people who go down that kind of like carnivore or animal based thing as well. You know, they get into like electrolytes or add salt to their water or whatever. What's been your experience going down that route? Sounds like you've gotten into that a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I had heard some influencer talk about nature's Gatorade, which is you squeeze lemon into a water bottle and then you add some like Himalayan salt, or I've been doing Redmond salt now. All the
Hmm.
influencers love Redmond salt. So that's like my protocol now. It's amazing for when you wake up. The nature's Gatorade.
Hmm.
I got started with the salts from LMNT. which don't even get me started on that whole scandal scandal.
Let's get you started.
Yeah, well, for one, I will say I love the taste of LMNT. I mean,
Mm,
nothing compares to it. It's so easy. You just throw it in anything, and it's amazing. I'm really just disappointed in LMNT. There's been this whole scandal that has come out that, and I'm definitely not the guy to really talk to about this, but basically it turns out that they were using something called maltodextrin in their product. And and there's a couple layers to it, but for one, I've heard that the amount of maltodextrin that they claim they were using, they're actually using a lot more. And that's not even close to my issue with it. Cuz and they say, maltodextrin it's really it's like a sugar substitute. Not that bad for you. But that's not the problem. The problem is that Rob Wolf is like the founder or whatever of LMNT. He's supposed to be this, I'm one of these, like, now we call him like Maha, make America healthy again. And he's not in that movement, but he was one of the founders before that ever existed of just, he was the guy, Rob Wolf. Like, go to him. He's going to change the health of America. He's going to do the right thing. But it turns out that in his product, he was hiding the fact that they were using maltodextrin under the natural flavors label. So technically, totally legal to do according to FDA guidelines is, I guess because their maltodextrin was so low, they could just put it in as natural flavors. So if you look on the back of an LMNT, you're not going to see maltodextrin. But if you ask them legally, it's, oh no, it's under there. It's in natural flavors. So my open letter to Rob Wolf, and I'm looking at the camera for this, you were supposed to be the guy. You were our savior. You were going to take the Americans to the next level. And what? You're hiding dodgy ingredients under natural flavors? I mean, that's everything that I thought you were against. And now I just feel cheated. I feel slighted. I mean, am I still drinking LMNT from time to time? I mean, like I said, from what I hear about I'm certainly no maltodextrin expert. From what I hear, it's not that big of a deal. If you are monitoring your glucose level, I hear you might have a little bit of a spike from it, but for most normal, healthy people, probably not that big of a deal. But the fact that he was willing to hide it under the subtext of natural flavors, it's just it's a stain.
mhm,
Do I so that it's just disappointing.
mhm. Disappointing. It sounds like just the integrity there
Yeah,
matters. Yeah.
I think so. I mean, especially if you're gonna be the guy, this is your thing. It's like, yeah, I expect this type of behavior from like everyone,
Mhm,
not him.
mhm.
So
It's
it
funny. It's funny you bring up Rob Wolf because he was one of the people for me learning how to, eat a healthier diet and all that stuff and all that. I've listened to a couple hundred hours of his podcast, whatever it is, and it's like, okay, cool. He probably got me 70% of the distance, that I needed to over the years. So crazy. You hear about the citric acid in there as well
no,
in the
don't even
LMNT?
tell me.
Oh
Tell
man.
me.
So this is Alex Rybczynski in Austin, Texas. This past summer, Pete and I were down there, and he started talking about the citric acid in there. Well, citric acid, as far as anybody knows, comes from citric acid.
Mhm.
So he's like, yeah, if you start actually digging into this, I forgot how he brought it up, but we were talking about jerky. And Alex, I apologize, I forget off the top of my head that the brand of your jerky. Pete, if you can remind me of that, go for it. Um, but he was saying that a lot of what these jerky companies do is they put either citric acid or lactic acid into their jerkies. So what it does is it holds more moisture. Therefore, that piece of jerky that you've got weighs more. So they're kind of finding like a go around instead of putting more meat
Oh my
into the
god.
thing that you're doing. But LMNT, and this is what Alex was telling me, and he said, yeah, if you dig into his website far enough for LMNT, it tells you that they derive it from black mold.
No.
Yes. And I've seen it. And it's so insane to me. And it's like, I was eating chomps at the time and, these different, look, grass fed, meat stick or whatever that's, an ounce or two or whatever. Okay, cool. Like, gives me a little something to keep going. And then every time I see that now, it's like, okay, like this, if this is derived from black mold, I don't want that. And the crazy thing too is that Alex was telling me he had his element tea and he would put it, he keeps this glass bottle of water and he would just keep it on his doorstep in Austin. That way it's just kind of warm. You know, he goes out and takes a swig or whatever. And yes, when he started putting element tea in there, the inside of the glass bottle turned black.
No.
Yeah. And he's like, what the hell's going on here? Tried any number of ways to like wash it out of there and all that. And somehow that got him going down the rabbit hole of like, what is in this thing that turned this glass black? And turns out that if you rehydrate, this is what he sort of concluded. If you rehydrate citric acid that's made from black mold, it will literally rehydrate into some component of black mold. So it literally leached its way into glass, which just I'm looking at a glass bottle here. It just seems insane
Wow.
that could happen. I forget if he tried it, with another, I don't know if he tried it with stainless steel or something like that too, but just over the top. It's like, how are you going to try? And they literally on their site
Yeah.
are talking about, oh yeah, it's legit because of this.
Yeah.
And it's like, really? Black mold? Legit? So.
Yeah, it's just disappointment is the only word.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's crazy how many how far their reach is. I mean, so many of the health podcasts that I listen to are sponsored by LMNT, so it's like, are those guys speaking out now? Like, do they know? Are they gonna, inform their audience?
Mm-hmm.
So it's really hard, which is
Mm-hmm.
almost like another thing, which is just sponsorships in the health space are just so sketchy, and there's
Mm-hmm.
just scandal after scandal.
What do you think about AG1?
I mean, I've never been into AG1. What's the scandal? Eh,
What I've seen, this was a video over a year ago or something like that. A guy who's actually worked in like the laboratory space, has a background in academic, scientific space or whatever, was talking about. He basically broke down the ingredients list and like the percentages of everything, and kind of dug in. He's like, this is how they basically come up with the order of these ingredients and all that stuff. And anyway, he went down the list and I forget what the couple main things are, but it's literally like two of the main things that are in there, like that makes up the vast majority of everything else. And he said the rest of what it says that you're getting in there is like so minuscule that
wow.
it's not even going to make a difference. And then he went into the amount of money that these people who are promoting
Yeah.
this is making, and it is like pretty significant numbers.
Yeah.
So anytime I hear somebody saying like, "Oh, AG1, gives me this and that," and it's like, are you actually backing this with integrity, or is it just like it really helps your pocketbook?
Yeah. Yeah. I wasn't really following it too much with the ingredients. Like I said, I never really messed with
Mm-hmm.
AG1, but I did hear the thing about the influencers. And don't quote me on this, but I think I saw something that like if you use Huberman's code to buy AG1, he gets like a 20 to 30% cut forever. And this is like a subscription based product. So like his deal is, it's almost like he's like a 20 or 30% owner in the company because he gets money every time someone buys it once they click his link and buy it for life. Don't quote me on that. It's been a long time, but I think that was the case. And yeah, it's just so sketchy that you stand to make 20 to 30% of a product that costs like $100, and you use that product and you refill that product every month. That's, so if someone's an AG1 user, I mean, they're probably spending close to $1,000 a year. So that means that Huberman's making $300 per person a year on, exponential amount of people.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And by the way, we probably both love Andrew Huberman. Found so much value from him over the years.
Yeah, I mean, you just have to watch out. It's just this. I mean, the thing is that money corrupts everything. That's why I'm such an advocate of Bitcoin. I don't know if Bitcoin would fix this particular problem, but money corrupts. So people. You only have to look so far as their incentives to see what they're promoting and everything. And yeah, I mean, I'm sure Huberman has to keep the lights on, although sure he's got enough money to keep the lights on for a while. So you'd think that, at what point is enough money enough where you can just actually help people? But there's not a lot of money in really helping people because the best way to really help people is go outside, which he does say go outside. Like his whole go outside and stare at this, like look at the sun, get sunlight into your eyes. I mean, that's free. And that's the best advice he's ever given. But there's no way to make money on just being outside in the sun. There's no way to make money on exercising and going out for a run.
Hmm. That while you were talking about that, it reminds me of how we actually even started talking. Of course, I was following your Cold Plunge memes page on Instagram for a while. But then when I saw you post the video about, the cold plunge industry, of course, I'd had time in that space. And when you were talking about planned obsolescence and how um, certain products out there, their warranty, sort of coincides with when you start to have problems with that product. And I was like, wait a second, like this guy knows what's going on out there because I had received a lot of feedback from people who had owned multiple different brands of cold plunges. And so what got you going down that path?
I mean, I guess just, I mean, nothing particular. I guess maybe I had seen a reel about planned obsolescence with like vehicles now. I mean, they sort of say like back in the old days, you could get 300,000, a 300,000 mile car was like new back in the old days. Now they all break down. And I saw just some reel about that, about how, all these cars are breaking down. And I would just, kind of, I guess, applied it. I was like, oh, I'm into cold plunging. And that's kind of the fun thing about me and being in this cold plunge niche is I kind of like apply everything to cold plunging. Like, how does that relate? So I just kind of start to think about it. And then you go online and yeah, you look at some of these warranties. I mean, in one of the companies, it was even like their warranty started on the day that you ordered the product, and then the product didn't even arrive to you for like another 3 months after that. So by the time you get the product, you're already like 3 months into your warranty, and the warranty's only like a year long. And yeah, I mean that's another sad thing about the cold plunge industry in general is that people don't realize it, but like you spend $5,000 on a cold plunge, you think that thing's gonna last forever, but there's so few brands that are making quality products that are. So yeah, I feel like a lot of people are spending 5,000-6,000 bucks on a cold plunge. The thing breaks down and they're shit out of luck.
Hmm.
SOL, as they say.
Hmm.
And so I made that video about planned obsolescence in the cold plunge industry.
Hmm. All right, so we're looking forward to having you out to Northwest Montana, where I live here before long. It'll be, I don't know, sometime in the spring or something like that. But we've got a product that is goes into a location there. Curious to get your take on that. Um, and then you ski, snowboard, or anything like that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I snowboard. I'm okay.
Uh, where do you tend to go? Because I'm not too familiar here with the Northeast.
Yeah,
So.
I mean our situation is a little dire. It's icy, but
Mm.
I did a lot up in Vermont, Killington Mountain. You ever heard of it? I had a
Killington?
season
Haven't heard of
pass
that.
there. It's pretty. It's just icy. So getting out to go to the Midwest is. I've been there. I've done Colorado and Utah in
Mhm.
separate trips, and it's just a different world. The
Different.
back bowls there and everything. You snowboard or ski?
I snowboarded growing up in high school, but I've gone like once. I did a Sun Valley trip in Idaho a few years ago, which was fun. Um, but yeah, I'll get back into it at some point. It's just not been higher on that priority list
Yeah, I
here
mean,
lately.
it's dangerous too. I mean, you just can't get hurt,
Mhm.
and then especially if you ski, you could like destroy a knee. If you snowboard, you're not going to get too hurt, but like it just concussed.
Mhm.
I fall a good amount. So.
Mhm. Yeah, it seems so here it's probably air's more excuse me, the air is more moisture in the air. Seems like it probably gets warmer during the day here and then cold at night. So is that what tends to create that the icy conditions?
I think it's because it just doesn't snow that
Uh-huh.
much. Or yes, maybe I'm not sure.
Mm.
I've always been under the impression that like the Midwest, Colorado and Utah is warmer than here.
Hmm.
It's lower latitude line. So I think
Higher. Oh, you know what? Actually, Colorado is
Yeah.
kinda surprisingly lower. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
but I
a
think
good
it's
point.
drier there. I don't know. I don't
Mhm,
really know like the specifics on why we are have such icy conditions, but it's
mhm.
tough. But it is cool because when you learn to snowboard on ice, when you snowboard on powder, it's just you're so much better. So it's a real treat. But anyway, yeah, I mean, I definitely can't wait to get like Montana is like on my list. I like can't wait to visit Montana. And yeah, I mean, I love, what you guys are doing. One aspect of what I do is just like searching out cool situations. And at my heart, I'm not like technical as far as like cold plunges, but I'm like technical as far as like cameras and like so many things. So like I love like seeing interesting solutions. And I love like peeling back the curtain a little bit. So I feel like that's what you guys do is like you're in these incredible situations where you have this commercial cold plunge and you're like, oh, here's the problem. We're gonna provide the solution. And it's so fun for me to just get in there and just be like, oh, like what's that? And like, oh, that's the pump. Where's that pump going to? And like, oh, how are we sanitizing the water? And it's like I can't do it myself, but like I love seeing it. So it's really cool that I get to meet people like you who are able to fly me out to different jobs and
Mhm.
just kind of see what's going on.
Oh, so it seems like, you like to get into some controversial type topics and stuff like that. What got you going down some of those paths?
I mean, you could kind of tie it to health. I mean, I just have always been like a question everything type of guy, see it for yourself. So, you get to see there's so many like mainstream narratives out there. And I think that that's why I'm into this like alternative health movement so much because it is controversial, which I love. I thrive on controversy, and it's also conspiratorial. I mean, I don't like to use that word, but it is because the mainstream is saying one thing. I mean, you look at the like American Diabetics Association, they're saying one thing, and then all the guys I follow are saying the opposite. So it's a conspiracy, and what they're saying is it affects your health, but it's you know s- to sell products, and so it's really in that space. And yeah, I love conspiracy theories so much. Um, there's definitely a piece of me that would just love to have a podcast about conspiracy theories, but I do like health stuff, so I think this is a good place for me where I could kind of like talk about the conspiracy theories in health. I don't have to get really too into the Anunnaki and and aliens and whatnot, which is a fun little rabbit hole I've been going down.
It seems funny that, like, you mentioned health, it seems like things kinda bounce, back to that. It almost seems like when you do it becomes a rabbit hole when you try to eat healthy and, do healthy processes and find healthy ingredients and all that sort of stuff, like, it's almost like you have to start peeling back the layers of the onion and seeing I know you've, spoken about, the damaging health effects of seed oils and stuff like that. It's just crazy. It's almost like it seems that if you genuinely go down that path, you're gonna start becoming more curious and critical of other things.
Yeah, I mean, sunscreen is a phenomenal one. That's like on the border of conspiracy theory,
Mhm.
whereas like I here you want to hear a good
Uh-huh.
health conspiracy? I think that it's the sunscreen that's causing cancer.
It's petroleum-based product, isn't it? All these mainstream sunscreens?
Yeah, who know? I don't know. Yeah, I'm not the guy to ask about that, but it's a chemical. Your skin absorbs the chemicals that you put on. I mean, there's no way to actually test if the sun's like who is gonna fund the studies that show that sunscreen causes cancer? It's not going to be the sunscreen companies funding that study, and it's not going to be me funding that study because I have no money. I can't fund that study. Okay, and it would be like a 40-year study because there's nobody in the world that you can't control for the fact that there's nobody in the world that has never been in the sun but has used sunscreen. You get what I'm saying? So in order to do that study the right way, you'd have to prove that somebody never ever went in the sun, but they used sunscreen and then they got cancer. So I believe that would happen. If you could find someone who's never seen the sun and you just put sunscreen on them for 40 years, I think they would get melanoma. I think that would be from the sunscreen. So all this to say, I don't believe that the sun is the reason for skin cancer. And I think it's impossible to prove. I think the sun heals you from skin cancer. You know, whatever,
Heals you.
you know,
Yeah, yeah.
This is not medical advice.
Uh-huh.
Not medical advice. But I don't think that's something that humans have lived with for the entire humanity could be bad.
Mhm.
You know,
It's funny because I saw Laird Hamilton talking about this, a while ago. Probably the most legendary big wave surfer of all time. And I don't know, close to 60 years old, 55, 60 years old, whatever now. He says, never wears sunscreen. He's got a great year-round tan. They got a house in Malibu and then one on Kauai. So, he can be in the sun all year round. Super healthy guy and all that. And he was saying, the sun is absolutely critical to support life. He's like, go start putting sunscreen on a plant every single day and see what the result is from that plant to the same plants, right next to it, and see what the result is.
yeah.
So it just seems so wild that it's always pushed on us, sunscreen. And you probably recognize too that, like, I guess it's seed oils and all that, like they actually create a condition, in our skin or whatever, that we're more likely to get sunburn.
Yeah. I've seen that stuff, and I'm definitely more cognizant in the summertime. Because I think you still have to protect yourself, but I think that protecting yourself is staying out of the sun for extended periods of time. Yeah, not eating seed oils and bad foods. So
Yeah, it seems like anything, like lifting weights.
yeah,
You don't lift weights like you've done it for 5 days for 5 years on end
yeah,
when you're getting started. Like you gradually work your way up. Same thing with sun exposure.
yeah. I mean, I think it's ridiculous that humans just go to a beach and sit for 8 hours. Like, that's ridiculous. Nobody in human history would have ever done that. Like human settlement, like hunter-gatherer tribes, they didn't settle on beaches and sand. Like, they were like in shade away from it. So like, of course we hear, oh, like, I'm gonna go sit at the beach for 8 hours. It's like, yeah, that's terrible. That's, like you said, the equivalent of just working out at 100% for like 5 days in a row. It's like, yeah, you're gonna tear your muscles. It's not gonna be good. So it's all things, moderation's important. But to say the sun's bad, I mean, it's almost like a psychological mind fuck too, because I think as humans, we inherently know that the sun feels good. You go outside and it just feels amazing. And then there's someone in a lab coat who's probably overweight, probably unhealthy, and they're going to tell you that thing that is making you feel so good is bad for you. Do you know what that does to your brain psychologically when something that in your core feels good, but someone's telling you, oh, it's bad for you? It fucks you up. And that's the kind of programming and control and conditioning that we are being subjected to every single day. And it's so much more than the sun and sunscreen. It applies to almost everything.
Yeah, it just seems like they get their tentacles, into so many things and,
Everything.
disrupt the flow of information and get you looking over here when you should be looking over here. And, even the red meat thing, like, the way that we eat, that's like, you say you did it and you felt phenomenal, whereas you tried the sort of vegetarian, vegan type of thing and felt awful. But the mainstream narrative is like, oh, well, red meat's going to give you heart disease and all these things and clog your arteries and kill you.
Yeah.
But the vegan vegetarian way is the best way to go. So
Yeah. Or Cheerios.
Cheerios.
There's a heart on the box.
Right.
It's got to be good for your heart. There's a heart. Why would there be a heart on the box if it wasn't good for your heart? So
Heart healthy whole grains,
yeah,
right?
and that's another perfect example of exactly what I was just talking about, where I go out with my friends, nice steak dinner. The steak tastes so good, the vibes are so good, and then everyone goes home and they're worried about their cholesterol because someone in a lab coat told them that steaks are bad, they cause cholesterol. So now something that is giving you such good positive feedback, now you have to feel bad about yourself for doing. It's asinine.
And it seems too, we're never even told, like, what is cholesterol? What's
Yeah.
its function? Anything like that.
Yeah.
It's almost like you get only the snippet that they want you. Oh, you're just supposed to be afraid of it.
Yeah.
It's bad if you have too much, if you eat all these things.
Yeah, it's crazy. And, don't quote me on this, but I think like our brain is made up of like 20% cholesterol. Like, there's a large percentage of cholesterol in our brain. So like humans need cholesterol, so then they just create these like artificial numbers of like a range when you get blood work done. It's like, oh, you fall out of that range. Who made the range, And of course there's so much incentive to get people out of that range. That artificially created range. If you fall out of that range now, You know, what's one of the top 5 most profitable drugs? Statins. So how convenient that they create the range, people fall out of the range, they sell you the statins. Lifetime medication.
Mm-hmm. And it seems too like cholesterol, big part in hormone production for
Yeah.
people. And it seems like there's all these things out there that disrupt our hormones. So it's like, okay, if you're taking a statin, which is going to mess with your cholesterol, well, it's necessarily going to mess with your hormones.
Yeah.
So it's just
It's
so
all
bizarre.
related. It's all, and then your hormones and your endocrine system is disrupted. Now you need another drug
Mm-hmm.
and another thing and another thing. So it's just this, it's a profitable industry. It's the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Incentives are what needs to be questioned.
Incentives. Absolutely. It seems like we're the crazy people willing to say, like, hey, what are the incentives?
Yeah.
Like, here's this thing that's supposed to be good. Like, okay, that's interesting. Like,
Yeah.
not saying it is or isn't, but
Yeah.
what makes it good?
Yeah.
Who's getting funded here?
Follow the money.
Mm-hmm.
Who's not just rich as fuck is like cattle farmers in the Midwest. Like they're like they don't need to convince you to eat cows. And they're not even making much money on it. Like there's not there's not a lot of money to be made on beef because it's so expensive. I mean, even like if you look at the price of inflation, like the price of like a ribeye steak versus like Cheerios, like the ribeyes go up. The price increases so much with inflation because ribeyes are real. In order to create a ribeye, it takes labor. There's someone who owns a farm who's feeding those cows daily, who then has to, kill the cows, butcher it, ship it out. Like that's real, as opposed to Cheerios that are made in a lab. So as the money gets destroyed, they can just keep making the ingredients in Cheerios cheaper and cheaper and cheaper so that Cheerios won't really rise with inflation. So when eggs start to be more and more expensive, it's like, well, we have some Cheerios over here and they're heart healthy. And they're not as expensive as these eggs. So buy the Cheerios,
Mm-hmm.
and the eggs will have the cholesterol. There is your cholesterol.
Mm-hmm. And feed them to your young kids.
Yeah.
Give them a little Ziploc bag.
Yeah, it's too easy.
Yeah.
They don't even go stale. It's just so gross. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I even as a kid, we all knew that Cheerios were disgusting. Yet our parents just tell us, "No, they're good for you. Eat your Cheerios. Eat your Cheerios." I have like PTSD from Cheerios. So sorry, General Mills,
Mm-hmm.
but I hate your product.
It seems like you had to put sugar on them to make them taste good.
Yeah, honey.
And so you're literally making something like highly processed grains.
Yeah.
That's going to hit your body as a ton of glucose,
Yeah.
and you have to put a bunch of more glucose on it to make it palatable.
Yeah, my mom actually hid Honey Nut Cheerios from us. Like we didn't even know Honey Nut Cheerios existed, so we didn't even have that privilege. But yeah, it's no surprise. I go to school first period. I'm like tired, don't want to be there, lethargic, just angry. But
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned the sort of biohacking type of thing before. Like, what other practices in that space do you get into? I take a look over and see the red light here.
Yeah, I mean that was kind of what I was gonna say. I wear the glasses.
Like the blue light glasses.
Yeah, the
you mean?
blue light blockers. I really think they work. I'm not like, so one thing that I've been doing lately is, and this is a big tip for most people, is like just like your hi-hats. A lot of those you could actually go in and change the color temperature on them. So like you can go into your hi-hat and like just get them to like the lowest color temperature, which is going to be like 3,000 Kelvin or so. So even just that tip alone is going to help out your eyes. So I've been doing that. And then the lights that I have in my home that are like just screw-ins, like I bought red lights. So just replaced as much red lights as possible. That's, like those like bulb, those like the lights that hang that are like up at the ceiling.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I hadn't heard that terminology before.
Yeah, just like normal.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I've only heard hi-hats as like a cymbal on a drum kit.
Right. Maybe I said the wrong thing. But anyway, all those like those lights that are just in the ceiling,
Mm-hmm.
those are what I'm referring to as hi-hats. And I just change the color temperature of those, and really just, I mean, now if I see blue light at night, it's just like it's a assault on my eyes.
Mm-hmm. Seems too like earlier we were talking about fluorescent lights too, and that typically kids in schools, people in offices, and everything are in fluorescent lights. And we're saying that like our eyes can't detect it, but our brain detects that there's just a constant flicker going on with those.
Yeah, so they say that stuff's linked to depression and anxiety, and probably macular degeneration as well. So you're really doing yourself a disservice if you're sitting under fluorescent lights. And why, may you ask, are there fluorescent lights in schools and office building and hospitals? Is because they're the cheapest lights. So once again, where's the incentive? Oh, the incentive is, they don't care about their workers. They don't care about the people that are the student. They don't teach. The schools don't really care about the students. The hospitals don't care about even their patients or their employees, which are the doctors. So yeah, throw some fluorescents up there. They're cheap. It's awful. Yeah, same thing with you go to the hospital. You get the worst food ever when you're trying to recover. It's
Mm.
just it's crazy.
It just seems so bizarre at a hospital. That's a really great point there. It's like you go and it's like it's all crap food, and it's like if even the staff is eating there too,
Yeah.
and apparently like doctors, I've even heard some doctors. I was talking to an oncologist who's retired. I don't know, around 65 years old in a sauna recently, and he was saying he's like, yeah, we weren't. I forget exactly how much he said they, you know, were taught about nutrition, but he's basically like, yeah, I had no clue. And he's an oncologist. He's a cancer specialist.
Yeah.
And he's literally telling me that after so many years in that space, and he was, I don't know, 50 pounds overweight or whatever it is, he was like, oh, maybe I ought to start taking a look at my diet. And it's like, how many years did you spend and how many hundreds of thousands of dollars did you spend in medical school to never be told about nutrition? And you're a cancer specialist.
Yeah.
It's like chilling to think, and it's so awful because so many people are relying on the medical industry and all that, for what's supposed to be expert advice. And I'm sure it seems like a lot of people go into that industry with the intention of being experts and helping people live a better life. But it's like suggesting that you go to your local farmer and buy the ground beef doesn't pay the industries that fund the medical industry. So
Yeah. There's really, the money is in the treatment, not the cure.
mhm.
So that's the incentive. And, these, doctors and everyone in the healthcare industry, their training, they go to med school. That's funded by the pharmaceutical companies. So they're getting a pharmaceutical industry education. So and even when they treat, now with insurance prices what they are, most doctors aren't able to go off and do their own practices. So they're under the guidelines of whoever their employer is, which is now these big conglomerates like Northwell Health and all these other companies that they don't allow you to go outside the lines at all. There's no like, oh, go on a 30-day fast or cleanse or something, which I believe would be super healing. And yeah, it's a for-profit business, and sadly, it's the doctors and healthcare professionals aren't even the ones making the money. It's the administrators. There's this chart that I love, which shows from the year like 1970. That's when we went off the gold standard, and you could actually see like it shows you like the salaries of doctors since the year 1970, like just kind of it's like a slow plateau of raising with the price of inflation, but the hospital administrators are going like this. So that's since the 1970s, since coming off the gold standards, you've just seeing all kinds of issues with our society. And
God, this seems insane.
yeah. Yeah. But one thing I've been kind of doing, which is kind of cool, is like going like going to doctors that don't even take insurance.
Mhm.
It's awesome. And it's like definitely like a luxury if you can do it, but like yeah, if you could find a guy that goes off insurance, he actually has to compete in the free. If he doesn't take insurance, he has to compete in the free market. So that means like the doctor's not just going to be rushing out to see their next patient because they have a quota to hit. These guys actually need you to come because like you're actually paying for it. So I think the insurance industry is kind of one of the biggest culprits to why everything is so broken.
Mhm. Seems like that was there was a guy several months ago on Rogan talking about that same thing. He had been in the medical industry for so long, and he was just talking about how distorted that industry, the whole medical industry has become based on how the insurance companies work.
Yeah. Reverse
Mhm.
incentives.
So you helped us quite a bit here in the studio today with some videography things and stuff like that. So it sounds like that is your main. That's what pays the bills for now. What got you going down that path and I don't know, it seems like you've become, quite skilled at it.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, what's made that
Ye
worthwhile for you?
Well, I went to school for, like, information technology, computer programming, did that after college, and I really just, like, hated my job. I hated having a 9 to 5, and that was around the time where, like, all my friends were getting married, and they were hiring these photographers, and I heard some of the prices that they were paying their wedding photographers, and just stupidly, I was like, I could do that. Like, what? You're paying $5,000 for someone to take a couple pictures? Like, pay me, I'll do it. And it's much harder than it looks. And I thought I could just do it, but turns out you can't. But slowly and slowly, I learned more and more, and it's just been a lot of fun. I think that videography is like such an incredible mix of technical expertise with creative expertise, creativity. So it's just nice to mesh the two things. It's been a good thing. So yeah, that's like kind of my day job is, I'm a freelance videographer. I work with a couple companies, mostly in Manhattan, and do their videography.
Mhm,
It was nice, and that's why, if you watch my videos, I hope you think that they look a little better than some of my competitors. Maybe not, but
mhm,
I like to think that I know a thing or two about videography.
mhm. Well, that was something when I had first started watching your videos. I was like, wait a second, like this is well done. Like it felt very professional.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, as far as I know nothing about videography or anything like that, but immediately it had that feeling to it, to where it was like the sound quality was great, the lighting was great, video quality was great,
Yeah.
and all that. But
Thanks.
so going the entrepreneurial route, what was it like going from that, say, 9 to 5 job, venturing into the world of entrepreneurship?
Um, a lot to say on that. I could definitely do a whole podcast on that
Uh,
question, but yeah, I mean, it was scary for sure, but the lessons are something that you can't put a price on. Just been incredible, and I think for me, mostly just teaching me like self sovereignty and not relying on that paycheck that hits your bank account every 2 weeks. You start to like really feel like you earned your money. So like, I mean, back when I was had a biweekly paycheck, I was just spending all my money, like partying, just not really caring. It was kind of a bleak future. But then when I actually like, I felt like, oh, this money, like this is my money. I earned this money. I had such a different outlook on life, which I think was like really healthy for me. So, so yeah, I mean, just that. But yeah, and I like the uncertainty of it all, and just I feel like it's so. I spent a lot of my childhood like blaming other people for things. You blame your parents, blame your brothers, your friends, whatever. But like slowly, I just started to like remove anyone that I could ever blame. I can no longer blame my boss. It's me. Everything is on me, and I like that. I don't know if it's for everyone, but for me, it's just nice to just. And it comes with the positive is it's like it's on you. You have all the control. So I like the control. I like when things go wrong, it's my fault. When things go well, it's also my fault. So you get and that kind of goes back to what we were saying before about doing hard things. It's like, yeah, you can't get the highs without the lows. So there's bad days, but there's really good days.
mhm.
So
It seems like a sense of ownership is kind of like an overarching part of that too.
yeah, for
Mhm,
sure. I mean, as humans in this country, we don't really own anything. You know,
mhm.
you think you own your house? Stop paying property taxes on it. You don't own that shit.
Right.
Government they'll take it away. You
Mhm,
rent that shit. Well, so what do you really own?
mhm,
And so I do think that in a way, I own my own company.
mhm,
Great, and hopefully my cold plunging companies and things do well and can replace all that other stuff, and I can hopefully my goal is to be a net positive for the cold plunge industry. Help consumers make the best choice. I don't think it's a light thing for someone to spend $5,000, $10,000 on a cold plunge. I hope that I could help people make the right financial decisions
mm,
so that they don't get ripped off and that they make the best choices. So that's been a process in itself, and it's been fun going down this journey.
mhm. I don't know if I asked you what even got you started wanting to talk about that and share your feedback out there publicly.
Um, I guess I've just always wanted to work in the health space. I love cold plunging. I think it's like a great booming industry, and I think there's so much fraud in the industry. So, and I've always loved reviewing things. So, yeah, it was just seemed like a pretty natural fit to get into that. You know, I did some cold plunge challenges and whatever. And I love making content around cold plunging. It's a fun thing to make content about. It's a fun thing to post about. So it's just fun. You know, it's a good. I love the niche. You know,
Mm.
it's great.
The fraud in the industry. What are you talking about there?
I mean, I have like a lot of stuff on like drop shipping, and so papes, which is for those who don't know, drop shipping is sort of just taking a product that you get from China or whatever, slapping your logo on it, and then just sending it off. So there's a lot of these kids who I always say like, you know, they live in their mom's basement, and they just like launch a company in 24 hours, and they're selling a cold plunge for $5,000, and they don't even touch the product. The product gets sent directly from China to the person who's buying it, and that's drop shipping. And to me, that's fraudulent. Maybe that's the wrong word, but it's ingenuine for sure. And so there was just a lot of that. And once I got into that, I was like, I have to talk. People need to know about this.
Hmm.
So it's getting better.
Getting better. Hmm.
I think so.
Hmm.
It's just weeding out. You know, there was a company, that the dropship company that recently went out of business. You know, I'm not going to say it here, but if you look at my cold plunge memes, you could find it. But yeah, I mean, you know, the free market is gonna happen. So I think we're like in the very early stages of the cold plunging industry and profiting on cold plunging. And it's fun to be in the beginnings of it because there's so much more that's going to happen. So many more companies are going to come and go.
Hmm.
And
It sounds like what you're saying is the practices that these individual companies have eventually it's going to catch up with them one way or the other, whether it takes them down, you know, puts them out of business, or whether they actually are doing things with integrity,
yeah,
they'll do better.
yeah, you'd think. I mean, yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, but you know, just like in everything in like crypto, there's like scammers. Like there's scammers in the cold plunge company, and sometimes these guys, yeah, they make their quick buck, fire off a couple good ads, sell some $5,000 cold plunge units, and walk. I mean, they probably walk away with a profit, so you can't feel too bad for them. But you know, over time, it'll start to just weed itself out.
Hmm.
I hope. So,
Yeah, it does seem, because it's such a young industry. You know, it's like, and all these stuff is coming out there. It's like the initial marketing is what grabs people,
yeah,
and then it's like, oh, okay, cool. Like this looks great, or you know, whatever, or this is a little bit cheaper than that, or you know, they got a cool endorsement.
yeah. I mean, it's always like just a cold plunge in a snowy forest in the middle of the woods. And it's like, wow, that looks sick. I get it. It looks good. Their whole budget is on marketing and ad spend. So, you know, I think that was one thing that when we first spoke, I said like half the time you buy a cold plunge, you're actually paying for your own advertising dollars,
Hmm.
which is a fun thing to think about with most things. Like if you buy something that you saw in an ad, like you're paying for your own ad. That's the way this works.
That's a great point. Yeah. Well, it sounds like we could probably record another episode or maybe two or whatever in the future. Appreciate you joining us, Mike, and especially in the early days of the What Makes Us Human podcast. So looking forward to seeing you in Montana the next few months.
Great. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thank you.